Hey guys, so for science, we are talking about environment. Today we're actually going to um, learn about environments. We're going to read some information. I'm going to be highlighting important information that you will need to answer some questions at the end. And so we're not going to read all of it today. We're just going to read a little bit. So environments. What do you think about when you hear the word community? Do you think about your family? What about your classmates and neighbors? These are part of your community. Other things are part of a community too. Scientists describe a community as a group of living things that share an environment. Okay, so that's important. They describe it as a group of living things that share an environment. So a community includes all of the living things around you. This means the trees and grass in your neighborhood are part of your community. Pets and wild animals like deer and insects are also part of your community. So it's not just your neighbors, not just the people who live in your neighborhood, but it's all those other living things. Individual groups of living things are called populations. Make up your neighborhood or make up your community. Okay. The individual groups of living things, that is called populations. For example, humans in an area are a population. Rabbits in the same area are another population. Maple trees in the area are a third population. Together, these populations make up part of a community. So I know kind of like Sweeney has a population of all the humans that live together, but they're also saying like all the rabbits that are in that community, that's another population. And then all the maple trees would be in another population. Environments have specific parts that support communities. What are the parts of an environment? How do these parts support communities? So these are two questions that we are going to be answering today. What are parts of an environment? Everything around an organism is part of its environment. Okay. And so let's talk about that word organism. So what is an organism? An organism is a living thing. Okay, so that is what an organism is. Think about a tree. The dirt around the tree and the air around its leaves are a part of the tree's environment. So are the animals that climb on it and its branches. Even the weather is part of the tree's environment. So all of that stuff. How do parts of an environment support populations and communities in an ecosystem? Okay. All organisms have basic needs. These needs must be met in order for the organism to survive. Air, water, food, and shelter are the basic needs of an organism. So air, water, food, and shelter are the basic needs of an organism. So that's what an organism needs to survive. An environment provides the organisms in a population with these basic needs. Think about a forest ecosystem. The deer in the forest needs air, which they can get from their environment. The deer also needs water, which they get from streams or rivers, or even snow in the winter. Rain and other kinds of precipitation keep the streams and rivers full. Deer need food, which they get from eating plants in their environment. In order to hide from predators and stay safe in bad weather, deer often use shelter. They can find trees and bushes. Young deer use the bushes to hide from predators and even have spots to look like the sun hitting the forest floor. Each part of the environment provides exactly what is needed for each organism in order to survive. So let's talk about some of these words. A predator is an animal that hunts and eats other animals. So that's what they're hiding from animals that are going to eat them. Okay, and then to survive, that means to stay alive. So they are trying to survive, to stay alive in their environment. Different organisms have characteristics that help them survive in certain environments. So different animals have different characteristics that are going to help them survive. For example, it doesn't have to just be an animal, it can be a plant. For example, cactus plants have specific structures that help them survive in dry environments, such as deserts. Water lilies have structures that help them grow. To help them grow and survive in wet environments such as ponds. How do environmental changes affect organisms? An environment meets the needs of the organisms that live there, but environments change all the time. Think about the seasons. It is warm in the summer and cold in the winter. Organisms must find ways to deal with these changes. Some plants lose their leaves and stop growing when it is cold. Some animals grow thick furs. Animals like birds migrate to warmer areas. It is easier to find food in warm areas. Many bears hibernate. They use stored fat in their bodies to survive long periods of cold and stay in their den for most of the winter. So let's talk about migrate. What does it mean to migrate? That means to move from one area to another. So in the winter times, the birds migrate down to the south because it's a lot warmer. Hibernate, these are what bears do in the winter. So to go into a deep sleep for a long amount of time. So bears in the winter go into hibernation until it is summertime. Sometimes an ecosystem experiences a drought. When this happens, many plants cannot get enough water and can perish or die. Animals are affected by drought too. Some animals can survive by moving to new areas. So a drought means when there is not enough water, okay? So one of the things that a drought can cause are plants to perish and die. And think about that. If there are no plants, then how are the animals going to eat? Remember, the animals eat the plants to help them survive. Okay, guys, so we're going to stop right there. We're going to read the rest tomorrow. I do have some questions for you to answer. You can go back and listen to the video to help you answer those questions.